All right, amidst the noise of the people across the hall, we will talk about the respiratory system. I'll be interested to see if that shows up in the YouTube video. Maybe I can give them all a special shout out at the end of this. Anyway, respiratory system, as you can see here, I'm pretty certain that's the next one. I'm going to double check while I'm standing here. Everybody's watching me double check this. We're skipping the excretory. Yep, moving to respiratory, so I'm at the right spot. Respiratory system, heading into our notes. I don't care who in here goes across the hall and tells them to zip it. Like we seriously can hear them all the way in here. It'll pick up. Respiratory system. We need to be able to breathe. Those of you that are sitting in my homeroom watching right now, it's kind of fine. Again, and we have to be able to take in oxygen and get rid of our waste gases through a system called the respiratory system. And it has not quite as many organs as like the digestive system, but it does have more than, let's say, the skeletal and muscular. We have our mouth and nose. We have our lungs. There's a very special muscle in there called the diaphragm. Most of the time, the diaphragm is an involuntary muscle that's working and you don't have to think about it, although we can control that when we take deep breaths in and hold it and then breathe out really hard. We have, once we get into the lungs, we have the bronchioles, and the way that the air gets from our mouth up here and our nose is through this little pipe here called the trachea, and then it goes down into our lungs, and then we break that down into the oxygen our body's needs, and then we get rid of the waste. Why do we have to breathe? That's an important question. I think people would ask, why do I have to breathe to begin with? Well, you got to breathe because when you are breaking your body down, like glucose and things of that nature, it can't be broken down by itself. The cells need oxygen to react with the glucose, the sugars that we break down when we eat through the digestive system in order to make energy. Sneezing on the YouTube, awesome. Anyway, we have to have that oxygen in our cells in order for our body to be able to break down that glucose into that energy that we need. And again, that oxygen that we breathe in is going to need a way to get from the lungs to the other parts of our body so that it can then mix with those nutrients that are then being moved by our circulatory system. So our circulatory system is not just there to move blood around, it moves the oxygen that our respiratory system takes in, which is extremely important. So right here under the lungs, and when we get a chance to work with some of the apps, we get to really see that there is this muscle called the diaphragm. We breathe using our diaphragm. It's not our lungs that do the moving in and out. It's the diaphragm. It flattens out, and it allows our lungs to expand with air. And when we inhale, air gets forced in through our nose and mouth, down through that trachea into the bronchioles in those tubes in our lungs, and they branch out and get smaller and smaller. Maybe we have a chance to talk about bronchitis and things of that nature when I get back into class. But again, we need the diaphragm there to help us take air in and to exhale to push that air back out. So breathing out or exhaling, you can see both of those. When we breathe, waste forms. So when your body is breaking down that glucose and using the oxygen in your body, carbon dioxide then jumps back into the bloodstream because it's a waste. It gets transported back to the lungs. All of this without us having to think about it, which is kind of cool. And once it gets back into our lungs, it has to have a way to make it out of our body. You can't keep those waste gases in us. It'll make us sick. And so we have to breathe back out. So again, the diaphragm is going to kind of stretch upwards and push air back out, therefore getting rid of that carbon dioxide, and it allows us to then flatten the diaphragm back out and take in more oxygen. We've been doing that all morning, I hope. I don't see any people that are turning blue in my room right now. But again, breathing in and breathing out is typically something we don't have to think about. And it's important that we have the diaphragm there to do that for us. And it's going to be located right under the lungs there. So it's another very important thing about the respiratory system that we need to know. Can't watch that today, although I may post that one, I don't know. Oops, heading down to here. Right. So the main organs of the respiratory system are the mouth and the nose. That's important for us to know. The lungs are there. They are there to take in the oxygen and then to take that oxygen and through tiny little capillaries and things to get that oxygen into our bloodstream. And then once the lungs get that carbon dioxide back, they are there to get rid of that by exhaling. We have the bronchioles, which we will get into once I get back into class. The diaphragm is that muscle that is there to allow the lungs to expand and contract to push air, get air in and push air out. And then we have that trachea, that windpipe, that tube that leads from our mouth and nose down into our lungs. What does the respiratory system do? Hold on just a moment. Now, I think it's pretty obvious that the respiratory system's function is to take in oxygen and get rid of waste. I have no idea where I was. Everybody in my class can vouch that I've been getting interrupted left and right. Anyway, let's go back to the function of the respiratory system. We need to take in oxygen because our body needs oxygen to pair up with the glucose in our bodies in order for us to be able to create energy with the food that we've taken in with the digestive system. That's not all the respiratory system is. It doesn't just take in oxygen and get rid of carbon dioxide. Take in oxygen, get rid of carbon dioxide. It does a little more than that. Thankfully, well, maybe not thankfully sometimes, as loud as it is in my room right now. Thankfully that the respiratory system allows us to talk. And so being able to take that air and force that out, and with some other things as well, we are able to talk, which is extremely important. Maybe not right now, but it's very important. It also allows us to smell. Obviously, that's going to be working with some other things as well because we have to work with our nervous system to interpret the smells. And again, sometimes in my homeroom, being able to smell is not a good thing. He's not looking. He's smiling. One thing about your respiratory system that's very important is when you're breathing in and breathing out, it allows your body has a way of changing the humidity, the moisture of the air that you're breathing in and breathing out into a level that your body needs. Again, this third point, probably the most important, it delivers oxygen to the cells in your body. And second, if not equally as important as taking in oxygen, it gets rid of the waste gases, the carbon dioxide from when you inhale. That is going to be it for the respiratory system.